Alright friends, so this is where I've left off on the landing page from my micro SaaS. I don't like it, so I'm going to add a hero section. So this is what I'm going to be building. I'm going to bring in my logo and then use some of that custom font that I brought in from the last video. So the first thing that I need to do is basically create a new branch because this is going to be a fix or a feature. So I go ahead and do git checkout -b and then name my branch. So this not only checks out my branch, but also creates it in one line. So I need to go ahead and edit the Homepage.py file. I need to actually navigate to the main section. Alright, so I like to go ahead and make sure before I start editing anything is that my application is actually working the way it should. Even though it should work, but just in case. And it looks like everything's fine. All the images are fine, so let's go ahead and start editing. So I like to make notes of what I want to accomplish. So in this case, I just do a comment that I want to add the logo, and then I want to make some adjustments to the subheader as well as the description. So the product tagline and then the description. So I'm going to bring in this logo, which is a PNG file. So I'm just going to add it to the assets folder. So I'm going to go ahead and create a logo variable, and I'm going to bring in the path that I specified above in the path settings, where I basically set this up using the path library. So I'll just go ahead and copy the assets directory and then add the path name to it. I don't want to type, so I just literally copy and paste. I think I changed the name a little bit to make it easier to copy, but it's basically what I want to do. And now I need to add it to the page, so I call st or Streamlit and add some columns. In this case, I want 3 as a test, and I want the logo to span one of them. And then I add st.image and then bring in the logo variable. And then let's go ahead and test to see if it appears, and we have an error. So let's see what I did wrong. Alright, so instead of adding the plus, I actually should have done a /. So this should have fixed it. And there it is. There's my logo. So let's go ahead and do some custom work with the title, because I actually don't like it. So I'm actually going to add a little bit of HTML and CSS inline. And one way of doing that is I have to use unsafe allow HTML. And this is kind of a call to Streamlit to allow this. And I'm going to set it to true. And basically I can just insert some HTML within the markdown. And I'm going to create a dev style. In this case, I want to adjust the text align to be different from all the other content down below. And the reason why I'm doing this is mainly because I'm not planning on reusing this anywhere else in my code. This is just special styling for the hero section. Now, usually you do want to keep like things with like. so to have a separation of concerns, but because this is just a beta, but I still want it to look a little bit better, I'm just going to insert this HTML and CSS within this section. So here I specify that I want the text line to be center, and I also want the H1 to behave differently from any of the others that might appear elsewhere in this page. And so now I'm just going to copy some of the tagline that I want to add to this section and make it special. So I'm also adjusting like the margin top, adding that, and I will go ahead and speed through this part, but if you want to see all the code that I added and how to add it step by step, I'll also have a link to my blog where I go into a bit more detail and actually have the code separated out of this tutorial. So here I'm going to fix this code. So I'll probably fast forward this, but I try to address anything like this when I come across it. So I'm going to move the product tagline into this H1 tag that I've customized. I'm also going to do some custom styling to the product description as well. And since that error message popped up again, I realized I didn't do it correctly, so I'm going to go ahead and fix that portion so that I fix that error. And now I'm going to refresh my app, and there we go, I fixed everything. And it's looking okay, not as great as I want it to be, so I'm going to also make some more edits to it. But I've gotten it to work in a way. One of the things I want to do is actually make the description a lot shorter, so it's not taking up so much space. I refresh it and it looks better than it did before. I like the smaller description. It's kind of straight to the point. So I actually didn't like the size of my logo, so I actually just went into Canva and made it larger, and now I'm going to replace the original one that I put in there and put in the bigger one. Now, I honestly want to make the logo span the whole width of the container, so I went ahead and removed the ST columns. Now, you can keep them if you want them, but in my case, I kind of want it to stand out and not be so small. Again, I'm going for more of a non-Streamlit default look, and so I want it bigger. Another thing I want to do is I actually want to apply my custom font to my content, so it does stand out and kind of shows, okay, this is part of the hero section, and not necessarily apply it as I did with throughout the rest of the page. Now, usually when people want to create some space in Streamlit, they just add like a blank page or a blank space, which you can do, and it does have that effect. But what I actually want to do is use some CSS within this section to create that space instead of just putting a blank line or writing a blank space. So let's go ahead and do that now. So now that I do actually have margin top, what I can do is actually add a margin bottom to my custom div, And this will create that space I need in between the description and the next section, which it does pretty nicely without having to resort to creating a blank space or writing in a blank space. So I can actually increase this or decrease this as much as I want to. So now I'm just kind of tweaking, make sure I have that space that indicates, okay, this is the hero section and the next part is the actual other content that I want. And honestly, you can play around and figure out what you like, and that's really all it comes down to, is making it work for you. So I'm kind of going to speed this up, but I kind of tweak everything in here to make it have that look that I want and still show that, okay, this is the hero section. So now I'm just going to mess with the font size a little bit. I decided to change it from pixels to rem, just so that it's more responsive and I can narrow down how I want to look, and it'll adjust automatically depending on what device you are on. So I decided to remove this text align center style, just to go with the default for my product description. And that's the thing about making this look the way you want to. Now that we have the ability to insert custom HTML and CSS, we can adjust how we want to do it, and it's obviously going to take a little bit of tweaking, so I'm going to fast forward through some of this. Because it's really depends on what you want it to look like and behave. So I am at a really great stopping point right now. So I will go ahead and add the files that I touched, as well as that new logo to the branch. I'll go ahead and commit all the changes and merge it with my main. So I'm going to go ahead and continue building out the functionality in my next video, because it's wonderful to have a landing page, but you want people to do something there. And one of the things I'll be adding in my next video is a custom social media calendar, and I will walk through how I changed it from the original implementation to this project, and how I use the source, and being that it's modular, I can add the code and keep it separate from the actual Streamlit app itself. So here's the result of all that work. It looks pretty good. I will probably tweak it a little bit more, but for this video, this is where I'm going to stop it. You basically get the gist. Anyway, if you like what you see, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one.